What is up, Toyota fans? This is Andrew from Trailrunner Customs. Today we are back with my two Toyotas. Now, as you know, we have been doing some cosmetic work on these vehicles recently. We recently did the 4Runner hood correction with the paint and the rust, and we're going to be replicating that same exact thing on the Sequoia. Now, the only difference is the rust spots were a lot smaller on the 4Runner. We have some larger spots to tackle on the Sequoia, but we do have the paint pen in, and we are ready to knock out these spots. Now, this hood is really in need of restoration because of two reasons. One, there are a lot of large rust spots on the hood itself. There's also sap spots from the car being parked outside. So while the hood may look good right now, this morning it looked horrible. This video section was filmed after the restoration. Basically, I hit it with a 4-step process. I first got rid of the sap spots, then shaved down the rust, gave the vehicle a nice wash, and then after it dried, I painted in these spots. So let's get right into it. Right here is a before shot of the Sequoia. All these marks are marks that we're looking to fix. Yes, I'm aware that this looks really bad. This is why I made this video. But again, these are paint chips where the hood is exposed and then it oxidizes, as well as sap. And then there's a few paint chips that haven't oxidized yet. We're just going to try and take care of all of this in one foul swoop. We're going to start tackling the sap spots. Now I have some nail polish remover from Walgreens here. I got this because it is cheap and it has a lot of acetone in it, which is the main chemical for removing sap spot. So I just put some on a rag and then continuously scrubbed it for about 10 to 15 seconds, depending on how big the spot was. And it actually came off surprisingly well. This was the first time that I've used nail polish remover to get off sap spots. And it works a lot better than something like Goo Gone, which I actually did try. But I just put it on there and scrubbed, and I was really surprised at how quick it came off. There were about 10 to 15 spots in total. They were all kind of near the end of the hood. So once I was able to locate them all and kind of get them off with the acetone, things really started to look up for the hood. There's me rubbing it with my finger. You were not getting this thing off unless you had some kind of special chemical. But once I got these off, it really encouraged me to keep moving and to know that the hood could look better. After that, I grabbed my little file pick tool and began attacking some of the rust spots. Now, in the video, I used a combination of the blunt end of the paint pen as well as the really sharp end of the file, just to kind of get all the rust out of there. And this was definitely the worst part of the whole experience, just because it was really tedious and it also kind of hurt my hand doing 30 to 40 of these. But I wanted to make sure all the rust was really out of there, so I had to be very careful and methodical about doing it. But it's important to get out as much rust as you can, if not all of it, just to avoid future rusting in the same spot. This is a look at all the little rust spots that are shaved down to the hood metal. As you can see, they just look a little bit darker than the hood itself because there's no paint there. And now they are ready to be cleaned and then filled in. From there, I pulled the car in the driveway to spray it down and give it a wash. I did this because 1, it just needed a wash, but 2, also, I wanted to get rid of any of the extra nail polish remover on the hood, as well as any of the maybe rust that was lingering around, and just get a clean surface for the paint repair. So after I had everything well washed and rinsed, I went inside to eat some lunch because I'm going to need a dry surface for this paint correction, so I just let the sun do its thing. Here's a little updated look on the hood spots now that they have been shaved of rust and cleaned. As you can see, you can still see them, but we're trying to fix that. And now, one ham sandwich later, our car is ready to have the paint spots filled in. So I tried to take a little close-up shot of me filling in some of the spots before I did a time lapse. And as you can see, this paint just has a little nozzle at the end on the pen. So you press it down and it just lets a little bit of paint come out. And then you can use the fine tip to spread it around in the gap. This does take a little bit of getting used to. When I first started filling the holes, I was kind of overfilling them just a tiny bit. And then I had to kind of go back, use a rag, and make sure that the paint wasn't coming out of the hole itself. Now, as you might can see on the video, the spots do look a little bit lighter than the hood itself. That was something that I also noticed for my 4Runner. And I did find that kind of went away a little bit as the paint dried. The spots blended in better after they had a good night of drying. But also, just because this hood is, 20 years old almost, and the paint is a little bit faded, so you can't expect perfection. You can't expect these spots to just completely disappear. But it does look a lot better, especially from afar, which you'll see at the end. Now, doing this was, again, very tedious just because I had such a large amount of spots. And you'll see me tackle some of the larger spots here. The larger spots definitely do not work that well with a paint pen. But for these smaller ones, like in the video, they can almost disappear with the right paint. One last thing I want to touch on before we get to the paint pen time lapse. This Sequoia has come a long way since I bought it. I'm doing a little bit of a Sequoia fix-up series, and I plan to do more mods in the future. So if you own a Sequoia or you just like Sequoia content, please consider subscribing, as it's the best way to support what I do. Now finally, here's the paint pen time lapse. It's really satisfying, so sit back and enjoy. So now let's look at the before and after results. So here's before. The hood is very, very ugly. Lots of spots, lots of rust and sap. Now let's cut to where we were right after we did the paint correction. This is where the paint is still wet, but it is corrected. And then this is this morning. It's dry out in the sun and it looks a lot better. Overall, this was a pretty simple project. I was able to finish it in just a few hours, and it really makes the front of the car look a lot less old and a lot more professional, which is kind of what I was going for, and I'm happy with how it came out. If you're looking to upgrade your 4Runner or early year Toyota, please check out our website, trailrunnercustoms.com. Thanks.